Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Monday evening, February 19, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related questions that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let's just take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that we have the frontal boundary associated with that cold front right there off the west coast of Jamaica, as we can see by this blue spiked line, and right behind it we see an orange broken line associated with a trough, all of which are associated with this broad area of low pressure of the southeast coast of the United States. And we can see it all being represented even better on the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down. The clouds associated with that broad area of low pressure of the southeast coast of the United States, which has induced the trough and the cold front right there off to the west of Jamaica. And we saw these clouds even better on the rainbow satellite images, with those high cold cloud tops being represented by the greens and yellows. Alright, so let's just take a look at what was predicted in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that sections of some southern and eastern parishes would have received some morning rainfall, and then spilling into sections of some northern and western parishes during the afternoon. For information, we know eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, so Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, so Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? We actually had a buildup of clouds, especially during the afternoon, across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica. Definitely brought in some amount of overcast skies and isolated shower activity. And we have confirmation from some of our followers. This is our Facebook page, and we had Sash stating we're having light showers here in St. Elizabeth. Lance stating it was raining in St. Catherine. And even on our Instagram page, we had Panton Giovan stating raining in Spanish Town. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see the images even better, showing those clouds, especially across sections of some southern parishes building, some of which brought some amount of overcast skies and isolated showers to sections of the island. And we can see right there that the sun was definitely getting away as the day progressed into night. And if we take a look at the latest infrared satellite images, we can see that we still have some clouds associated with those grays that we see right there across sections of the island. And look at those blues right there off to the west. Those are some high cold cloud tops definitely coming in, associated with the frontal boundary of that cold front. And we can see the rainfall associated with that cold front even better. Right here on the Cuban Doppler radar images, we can see some rain bands right there off the north coast of the island, not to mention some rain bands right there to the east of the Cayman Islands, affecting sections of central and eastern Cuba as we speak. And Jamaica is definitely going to be getting in on the action tonight into tomorrow. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can tell 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, temperatures should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 21 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Tuesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Tuesday, and we see the grays that should be across Jamaica, and we know the grays, as we can see by the key on the right, represents 0. So we're gonna be getting in on those average temperatures, because we're not getting in on the yellows and the oranges that mean above normal temperatures, and we're not getting in on those blues and greys that mean below normal temperatures as yet. But the blues are definitely on their way to affect sections of Jamaica by Wednesday. And we know that our average temperatures for the month of February are about 86.4 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we take a look at the thermometer, that's about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So that's gonna be the temperatures for Tuesday. As relates to the dry air map, we can see that the dry air is represented by the key at the bottom, the yellows, oranges, and reds, not to mention the whites within those reds. And we have a lot of dry air stretching all the way from Africa into the Caribbean, not to mention section of the Gulf of Mexico. But as it relates to the Saharan dust, yes, we have been getting in on some amount of Saharan dust for the past week, but it's starting to dwindle as we are starting to see some lighter shades of browns. What we don't want to see is those darker shades of browns right there off the coast of Africa across the Caribbean. And this is going to be the forecast for 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and we're indeed grateful for that. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that we have more and we have blues surrounding the island. And when we take a look at the key on the bottom right, that's representative of anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because the winds are going to be coming in from the north, for the most part, averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knots. And we can see that by afternoon, all of that air could be piling up across sections of some southern and eastern parishes, especially. We know for a fact that when we have all of those winds, low level winds blowing, we might have all of that air piling up, and we have those clouds building, formulating some amount of afternoon rainfall, and we might get in on some of that across sections of eastern Jamaica. However, whatever comes off of the sea from the north, northern Jamaica, especially across the northwest, is going to be getting in on the action first. And we know when we're talking about northern parishes, we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. And what usually comes with these northerly winds are the is the relief rainfall. And we know relief rainfall is basically when we have all of those winds coming in, all of that air rising, forming clouds, and then the air condenses, we have condensation. Then all of that produces rainfall, especially on the north coast of the island. So let's say this portion of the land is the north coast. Then we have the peak of the hills right there in the hilly interior section of the island. Then the rain shadow is usually on the southern portion of the island. So it's usually in the morning that we see all of that rainfall, especially on the north coast, some of which spill into sections of some southern parishes in some event. But definitely we're going to be seeing some of that spilling to sections of southern Jamaica, especially during the afternoon hours. But definitely northern Jamaica is going to be feeling the brunt of this cold front with its wind and rainfall. And already we're seeing the rainfall forecast from the Euro and the GFS confirming this. This is 4 a.m. on Tuesday. And look what we see on the Euro, a lot of blues that represent rainfall across sections of western and northern Jamaica, sections of Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne. And even on the GFS model, we see something very similar. We know that when we see consensus like this, the chances are higher for it actually happening. Skipping ahead to about 8 a.m., we still see much of the same on the Euro and the GFS. Sections of northern and western Jamaica still getting in on the action. Skipping ahead to about 1 p.m., look at what we're seeing now. Sections of some central and eastern parishes starting to get in on the actions. Quite interesting. It's going to be quite a wet day, especially during the afternoon across the island. 4 p.m., something similar, especially across eastern Jamaica. Look at the Euro, showing those greens and dark blues that represent a lot of rainfall out to sea right there off the coast of St. Mary and Portland. We might get some amount of isolated flash flooding taking place. Eastern Jamaica definitely going to be getting in the action tomorrow afternoon. Then by 10 p.m., we're starting to see it wind down, especially across sections of central and western Jamaica. But we still have some leftover blues that represent rainfall across sections of the north, east, and sections of eastern Jamaica. So definitely sections of St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas might get in on some amount of the action still. So eastern Jamaica, we know Portland, St. Thomas, sections of Kingston, and St. Andrew. And as it relates to the rainfall forecast in terms of the accumulated rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Tuesday, it makes sense that we're seeing that rainfall, especially across northern Jamaica, the amount of rainfall that's expected. Euro is a bit more robust with the amount of rainfall, showing all of these reds that mean up to 1 inch of rainfall, which mean that there could be some amount of isolated flash flooding taking place across sections of some northern and eastern parishes. GFS, something similar in terms of the location of the rainfall, but not necessarily the amount, only up to at least 0.31 of an inch of rainfall in northern Jamaica. Either way, we're indeed grateful. We're in the month of February. This is the driest month of the year, according to records dating back from 1996 to 2015. We're definitely going to be getting in on some amount of rainfall to put a dent in the drought that's expected. And if we actually take a look at um the actual satellite images, if we actually take a look at the satellite images showing the forecast for the rest of the Caribbean, we can see that we're definitely in for some amount of clouds right there across sections of the Bahamas, Southeast Florida getting in on some of the action still, sections of Central America, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, sections of Costa Rica, Panama getting in on some of that cloud cover and rainfall, but we don't see much taking place right now across sections of the Eastern Caribbean or Northeastern South America. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the Northeastern Caribbean, still see much of the same like what we saw yesterday, not much happening across the Northeastern Caribbean at all. And if we take a look at the Windward Islands Doppler radar images, all courtesy of Barbados, weather.org, we can see that they're definitely getting in on some amount of isolated shower activity coming in from the east. We see some of that coming from east to west, affecting sections of excuse me, affecting sections of Tobago as we speak. Some of it spilling its way into sections of northeastern Trinidad. We don't see much happening across St. Vincent and the Grenadines right now, but definitely it could affect them later on. Not to mention sections of Barbados. Some of these sprinkles could come in from east to west. If we take a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we don't see much happening across majority of the Caribbean basin at this time. Only some amount of rainfall right there across sections of northern Guyana. If we take a look at the temperature forecast from the GFS for 1 p.m. on Tuesday, we see that there's a yin-yang kind of effect taking place. Above normal temperatures across the central eastern Caribbean, as represented by the yellows and oranges, while below average temperatures represented by the blues and greens across the western Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, not to mention the southeastern United States. If we take a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Tuesday, we see that majority of the Caribbean that did have some amount of Saharan dust is starting to dwindle. Still see some light shades of browns, but it's nothing that serious. We see majority of it across the eastern portions of the main development region at this time. If we take a look, if we take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are showing majority of the Caribbean embedded in blues that represent anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave height. Not so bad in terms of fishing. And as it relates to the wind forecast, winds for the central and eastern Caribbean coming in from the east, averaging anywhere from 10 to 15 knots. Coming in from the north for the most part, anywhere from the Bahamas, Florida, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Central America, all of those areas, all courtesy of that cold front, averaging anywhere from 15 to 20 knots, even gusting to 25 knots right there off the coast of Nicaragua. If we take a look at the rainfall forecast now, keep in mind that both of these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday. We see that rainfall right there, especially in store for sections of the southern Bahamas as represented by those yellows and reds, not to mention sections of central and eastern Cuba, sections of Jamaica, sections of the northern coast of Honduras, not to mention off the coast of Nicaragua, definitely Costa Rica and Panama getting in on the action, as well as Colombia. And we can also see that isolated shower activity in store for sections of the eastern Caribbean. Look at those greens. Sections of Guadeloupe, sections of those areas that we just saw. So Tobago, Trinidad, sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines might get on some moment of isolated shower activity, not to mention sections of Guyana. And we know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chance of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.